I'm Nick Foley, and I'm in the Boo Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Battle of Ontario Hockey Podcast, featuring a Senators fan and a Leafs fan. We're here to talk about your two favorite teams, the rest of the NHL, local hockey, hockey all around the world, and to bring back memories from your favorite hockey teams and players. If you love the Leafs, Sens, B-Sens, NHL, or any other hockey, including the late Belleville Bulls, you are going to want to tune into our podcast. The gloves are off, the buckets are spinning, let's get the chirps flying. Welcome to the Boo Club! Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Battle of Ontario Hockey Podcast. I'm Brokey, that's Flem. We got a big announcement today coming up here soon, and we have an awesome guest, one of Belleville's own and Belleville Bull, Nick Foley will be coming on the show in about 5 minutes, Flem? But before we get to the big announcement and to Foley, Fleming, I'll take it to you.
Yeah, so this episode is sponsored by Monument Geomatics, so great partners in the community. They are surveyors and engineers. For more information on what Monument Geomatics does, visit monumentge.com, and we just want to thank them for their sponsorship of Pay It Forward Sports and Boo Club Sports. Brokey.
All right, well, thanks, guys. So the big announcement is we have teamed up with Live For Today Travel Agency and Boo Club Sports, of course, and we're going to run a bus trip to watch Fleming's Toronto Maple Leafs take on my Ottawa Senators in Ottawa on April 16th. Tickets will be released. They will be for sale this coming week. We will have prices locked in. I think there's going to be first level seats and third level seats, lowers and uppers. I've actually ran these in the past with Live For Today Travel Agency a couple years ago before COVID, and they were a ton of fun. So we're hoping to have even better numbers this go around, and our followers with Boo Club Sports can hop on as well. It is a blast. It's a ton of fun. Bus trip up. You don't have to worry about driving home, parking, none of that fun stuff. So April 16th, look for that this week. We will be releasing tickets. They will be going on sale. And we might even have a fun draw for some free tickets on Facebook. So check that out as well.
Yeah, so it's going to be tons of fun, guys. Nothing beats a bus trip. I love taking buses up to games like Blue Jays games, Leafs games. Just fun not to have to drive back. You get to have time with the boys, the friends, right? So, but one thing I did want to plug first, Brokey, is Pay It Forward Sports Hockey Tournament, the Kings of 4-on-4, April 8th to 10th. This is going to be the biggest hockey tournament, men's hockey tournament we've seen in the Quinte area in quite some time, guys. So come on out, April 8th to 10th. The winning team wins a trip to Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. Can you believe that? No one's giving out prizes like this. So if you got a few buddies that want to come out, get back playing hockey, 4-on-4. Winning team wins a trip to Vegas. Also, lots of great prizes, golf passes to Rondell Glen, and one random team. So if you think, hey, maybe we don't have a shot at winning, we're going to give one random team 12 tickets on a bus trip that we're running in the summer to see a Blue Jays game with us. So come on out, contact us today, Brokey or I, or get in touch with that PIF Sports 2021 at gmail.com, and we'll lock in your spot. So the biggest hockey tournament in the Belleville area, Brokey.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. It's going to be a ton of fun. Teams are starting to pile in here, and it's going to be it's going to be competitive, but it's not like we have NHLers, guys. So don't think, oh my God, I got no chance. There's guys in all different levels that are coming out, so it is going to be a ton of fun. And it's 4-on-4 hockey. I mean, get a good goaltender, get some guys that can play D, and everybody I think is going to have an opportunity to win. And like you say, even if you don't win the big prize, we will have probably a second and third prizes, but not only that, we're going to have a random draw for Toronto Blue Jays tickets. So, I mean, one of the teams that get in is going to win that. It's going to be a ton of fun. Going into that, though, we do have a tournament before that in March. It's our 3-on-3 All-Star Championship at World Elite in Belleville. There's only limited space available, guys. It's almost sold out. I think we have one, maybe two spots in the competitive and one, maybe two spots in the rec left. And not only that, guys, if you enter the competitive and you win the competitive, you win free entry into April, which is $1,100 value. That's really, really good, guys. So, you know what? If you're watching this and you want to play some hockey, we've got some great tournaments coming up.
And just a reminder, everything Pay It Forward Sports does, a portion of the proceeds goes back to help getting local kids in the community into sports who can't afford to play. So come on out, have a good time with your buddies, and help a great cause as well. Do you have anything else you want to do, Brokey, before we get into Nick? I know we're going to get a Nick here soon, and then we'll come back after that, and we'll talk about our Leafs and Senders, some big news in Leafs land of the trade. But you can hear my thoughts on that after the Foley interview, Brokey.
Yeah, so guys, I just want to pump up Foley here. He's born and raised in Belleville, Ontario. He talks about that, and he got to play his first junior hockey OHL with the Belleville Bulls back in the mid '90s. So it's a long time ago, but a ton of fun, and I think some of our older crowd around our age will remember some of these names. And he's got some really, really good and funny stories. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And here he is, Nick Foley. He grew up playing for local minor hockey organizations such as the Belleville Bobcats and Queenie Red Devils. When he was 17, his childhood dream came true, playing for the hometown OHL Belleville Bulls. He played parts of 4 seasons in the OHL, including with the Bulls, Kingston Frontenacs, and Mississauga Ice Dogs. After he graduated the OHL, he went to play 4 seasons for St. Mary's University in Canada. He's born and raised and still living in beautiful Belleville, Ontario. He's a big member of our local community, running and helping different charities such as 20K Sock Day. Ladies and gentlemen, another one of your Belleville Bulls goaltenders, Nick Foley.
Hey, that's quite the intro, man. Thanks for that. Hey, good evening, boys. How are you doing today?
Awesome, buddy. Awesome. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, excited to be here. I'm an admirer of the podcast. You've both done a really great job growing it in a short capacity, so you should be very proud of that. So thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks, buddy. We just love talking to the old Bulls. Seems like we found like a little niche there with that kind of audience. So people love hearing the old Bull stories. So I guess we can just jump into that too, right? So I mean, how did you end up landing in Belleville? I think you landed there at 17 years old, right? So what was it like, kind of going to the Bulls training camp and making the squad the first year?
Yeah, it was quite the experience, man. Like I'll tell you what, like I was fortunate, right? Because I'm from Belleville, and some people kind of look at it like you're playing in your hometown. There was that that pressure of your hometown because you know everybody, right, and type thing. But I've always wanted to be a Bull. To be honest, when I was growing up, my dad and my mom used to take me to the games all the time. It was actually great. I remember when I was a kid, like really, really young. My dad worked on Fridays, and my mom would take my brothers and sisters and I would to the Bobcat games, and they used to play at the Memorial, the Belleville Memorial downtown. So I'd go to those games on Friday, and then my dad would take us to the games on Saturday, to the Bulls games, right? So it was great. It was like junior hockey, like overload. So of course I really wanted to play. So I was actually playing AAA here locally, and scouted by Floyd Crawford, and got the call from Navity on draft day, and said, we'd love to invite you out to camp. So was able to go to camp, and I was over the moon, man, just to play and to go against, the guys that I watched for a couple of years. They're still like 19, 20-year-olds and things. Great, funny story to start camp, though. I remember I was there, and I was all nervous, just a young kid, right? And the first 2 shots in that training camp went in. First shot was a breakaway, Danny Cleary, and he comes in, splits the D, nice goal, kind of skates by me and is like, "Welcome to the O kid," type thing. And Danny Cleary, he's a good player, we all know. The next one was an absolute muffin that a defenseman just kind of shot from outside the blue line and like bounced in front of me and like went between my legs. And honestly, boys, I'm not kidding. I was like, I looked to the left, I looked to the right, and like people are watching training camp, and I'm like, all right, well, you know what? Like it's all going to rely on the next shot here. Like if you stop the next one, we'll get into a groove. And if you don't, then you might be in over your head. And I was able to stop the next one and beyond, and had a pretty good camp. And Corey Cooper was our 19-year-old, 20-year-old goalie, and he went off to New Jersey. So it was Jason Gadji and I were kind of vying for the spot, and there was eight exhibition games, and him and I split the workload, and I had quite a few wins in exhibition games, and was able to make the team. So it was a real proud moment for myself and my family, no question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. That's got to be. But did Mav kind of give you like any indication that you were on the radar, like you might make the team kind of mid-camp or anything like that after the 2 muffins? Or?
Yeah, he's like, he's funny, right? Because he's Mav, right? And so you watch him forever, like growing up, and like he was such he's such an icon in our community and beyond. And I never really talked too much about it to him when I was in training camp, other than like, funny story actually. I remember the first game we played, we were playing in Belleville, and Halifax Moosehead were doing a tour, and Mav dressed a bunch of rookies, and after the second period, we were down 2 or 3-1. And so he goes, Foles, he comes in, and he's like, all right, Foles, you're in the third, right? So Jason played the first 2 periods, played well. I mean, we're only down 2-3-1. And I go into the third period, and I'm not kidding you. 30 seconds in, I get a breakaway. I stop the breakaway. I'm like, all right, I'm feeling good. I got a groove. 20 minutes later, we lost the game 7-3. I gave up 4 goals, right? In my first, exhibition. So as a 17-year-old kid that all I wanted to do was make the Bulls, I was like, in my head, honestly, with 5 seconds to go, I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, the game plan is to get undressed as quick as I can, get showered, and run by the coach's office so he can't cut me. And so literally, so I get he comes in, it's an exhibition, so Mav doesn't really care. He's like, all right, tough one, boys. We play Peterborough tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon for the it was a traditional we played Peterborough on Labor Day Monday. And he came in, so that was a Sunday game, and he came in and he's like, all right, boys, we play Peterborough tomorrow afternoon. Keep your head up. Line up, we posted in the morning. Still, at that point, there's still guys around, right? Because, people are still there. And I literally got my stuff off as quick as I could. I showered, got dressed, and ran by the office. My dad was sitting there after the game. He's like, looking at me. And Brokey, you know my dad. He's like, looking at me. He's like, they cut you? And I was like, no, start the van. Let's go. Right? He drove out. I was paranoid I was going to get cut. And my thought was, if you can't see me, you can't cut me. So came home, because I'm living with my parents. Came home, told them, don't answer the phone. Nobody's answering the phone. And I was like, don't answer the phone for the whole night, right? So I figured if he can't see me and cut me at the rink, he might call me. No one's allowed to answer the phone. He didn't call. I had been back to the rink the next day in the morning, and he goes, want to give her another go tonight? And I said, yes, sir. And I played the whole game. We ended up winning 5-3. And then it just snowballed from there. I ended up having a pretty good preseason. And then Jason Gadji got traded to Sudbury, and then they signed me the last day of the preseason. And I tell you, for a kid that's a local kid that all he wanted to do is play on the Bulls, when I signed that contract to play, when I signed, my OHL card, it was I walked out and there's no cell phones back then. It was 96. And I had a quarter, and I called my dad's store, and I was like, I made the team. I can't believe I made the team. And he's like, he's laughing, and my mom's there, and she's crying, and I'm trying not to cry because I got to go back into the boys' room, and dress, and and I got to act like a bull because I'm a bull now. And it was one of the proudest moments of my life up to that point. And I'm not kidding. It was a real proud moment, and I was very fortunate. There's some really good guys on the team, James Boyd, and we were like a rebuilding team, and but a lot of the parts that went to that Memorial Cup, was cultivated in that team that year. Guys like Ryan Reddy and Corey, or not Corey, Chris Stanley and Justin Papineau and boys like that, right? The foundation was there, and they had a real talented group, and we were young, didn't win a lot of games that year, but we made the playoffs and behind the back of Corey Cooper. So a lot of fun, though. A lot of fun.
I love the story just about leaving the rink and him thinking, he can't cut me if he can't see me or he can't call me. I love the thoughts. We're nowadays it's your cell phone's in your hand at all times, right? So something like that probably can't happen now. But I love that. And the one guy you spoke of, which I want to we might as well get into right away, is Dan Cleary, because like you said, he scored your first shot in camp, right? What was he like? Because I remember, I was young. Fleming and I both had season tickets growing up, and we were both young at that age. What, we've been 8, Fleming, 8 or 9?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
But I remember he was like the god, eh? He was like the god of the Bulls back then. It was Dan Cleary. He was that good. What was it like, playing on his team?
Yeah, he was great, man. A talented guy. Sat beside him in the room. It was actually myself and Corey and then Danny. And it was tough that year because he was that was his draft year. He was a late birthday, right? So that was his 3rd year in the OHL. He had 2 phenomenal seasons. And I remember at the start of that year, he had a tough time scoring, right out of the gate. And I just eventually he just got going and he was, he was phenomenal. He ended up with 85 points, 30 goals, whatever it was. You'll have to DB it. But he had a great year, ended up getting drafted by Chicago, but just a real down to earth guy, man. He was really good to he was really good to myself. I think he had a soft spot. I was a young rookie, came in off out of nowhere at a AAA, made the team out of camp, you know what I mean? And he was a really good guy. He was our captain. He was our captain. Mike Lavelle was our assistant, and James Boyd was our assistant. And Dan was he was good to be around. He was always laughing and joking, and but serious when you had to be. I think he had his a lot of pressure on him that year, right? He had that expectation and to be drafted, and he ended up going in the first round anyway. And it took him a little while, I guess, right? But then he had a wonderful career, didn't he? Like he ended up, what did he get, 2 cups? And, what he played 10, 11, 12, 13 years. So we had a good team, and he was young. He was only a year older than I was, but was an underage in that league, right? So, and he was around guys that were winners like Craig Mills and all those boys that were graduated on. So you could tell that pedigree, really impacted guys like him, Corey Cooper, James Boyd, Ryan, he would have been a rookie the year before already. And then so they were around that winning culture. I believe the year before I got there, they went to the semifinals like back-to-back years, right? So they're top 14. And so, I think Dan did a good job in bringing the young guys along. And he was a good leader, good guy to play with. I really liked a lot of time for Danny. He was good.
Did Mav give the boys the green lights if anyone went after Cleary or what?
Yeah, we had some good tough guys, right? Like I remember one time James, he was a real good leader and like just a strong, tough guy. He's a GM now, right, for the Ottawa 67s and was the World Junior and guy and stuff. And I remember John Tripp took a run at Danny in an Oshawa game that we were playing, and so John was like 6'3", and James is like, he's got a big chest and he's a big solid guy, but he was only like 5'11", right? And I remember like, Boyder just like kind of dropped the gloves and just kind of held him on and held him close, and it was like giving him uppers. You could see like John's head going back, and like he was a real tough guy, and but if you touched a guy like Dan, you knew something was gonna happen. But it wasn't even just for tough guys. I remember we were playing Kitchener one time, and Ryan Reddy went across the blue line and got a high stick in the mouth and lost 4 of his teeth. And we're playing Kitchener, and I remember the next time we played Kitchener was 2 weeks later at the Auditorium, which is a horrible place to play. Great building if you're from Kitchener, but if you're you're coming in, man, it sucks. And I remember like Rob Fitzgerald, who's like my height, you know what I mean, fights this guy, and it really galvanized our team. You know what I mean? Like it was guys like that. So we had tough guys, like Mike Cirillo, or not Mike Cirillo, Ryan Crothers, bless his heart, he's now passed away, but like guys like him, but they were like Mike Loach was an overage, he was a tough guy, but guys like Rob Fitzgerald would step up every once in a while and do the job that James Boyd would do, and it really galvanized us, and we actually went on a bit of a run to get into the playoffs. We ended up losing to Ottawa in 6, but I got a memory for these things, man, because like I remember being around, just kind of looking around and just always trying to take it in. I was like, I never took for granted playing in the OHL, even when I went to Kingston the next year. Mav traded for me, and then went and played 2 years in Mississauga. I never, like, I just was so, I've always like, just wanted to work so hard to stay in the league, so these things, it's funny what they come back to when boys are asking you questions about the league, like you remember,
One question I had was James Boyd. Obviously, he's having a lot of success now in the OHL, still a GM of Team Canada, right? We've named it. When you're playing with a guy like that, do you know, hey, someday this guy's going to be a coach in this league and he's going to be a general manager? You kind of get a feeling for a guy like that, or?
Yeah, when you talk to James, like you get the sense, especially he was an overage and I was a rookie, right? And the time that he had for me was just like, it really helped. It really shaped my career, because when I was an overage, I treated the rookies the same way he treated me, with kindness and dignity and like, as a friend and as a teammate. And you could just tell James was destined to do whatever. I've always said that if he could have done whatever he wanted. He wanted to be a prime minister, he could have been prime minister. Like, I honestly, he was one of the smartest guys I've ever met. If you ever want to be humbled, sit next to him when Jeopardy's on. And like, he just knows every answer. He just, but he just had a way of like, he just gets it, right? He just understood the room. Mav used to have this thing. There's a sign on the door. This is a funny story about James Boyd. So I sat by the door, and there's a sign on the door, and it just read, I don't know what it read, but it was always like, it was always there. And before Mav came in to talk, James Boyd would come over and knock the sign down. So the sign would go like this. And it was just a little kind of a shift. And then Mav would come in to say his pregame speech, and before he'd start, he'd always fix it. And I never really knew. I just thought the sign always just like, because the door was shut. Until one time James before Mav came in, James went by and just knocked the sign, and I watched them do it, and then the sign just went like this, and then so now I was on to it every single time we had a pregame thing, and he'd come by, he'd knock the sign, and Mav would not start a speech. He'd walk in, and he was very superstitious, Mav, and he'd walk in and he'd fix the sign, and then he'd turn around and, all right, boys, here's what we're gonna do, right? So I just thought it was like just little things. Like James understood the room, and apparently before that, I think it was Craig Mills that used to do it. So, but yeah, you just knew that he was destined for some sort of leadership role, some sort of managerial role in the league, and I'm glad that every success that James has had, he's worked for it, and he's worthy of it, no question.
So the boys obviously did that to Mav like more than once. Like it's been going on for the years. He never clued in that the boys are doing it on purpose, or?
No, I think it was such a thin, like it was like one of those like just like those thin little signs, right?
Yeah.
And it was he might have just thought the door shut and the sign would just go like this, and every time he came out, that sign was tilted, and Mav just got her right, and he was and he was like that. And I think that I don't know if I don't know, like Mav left. I left when Mav left, but I don't know before that if it was one of those things that just kind of happened and somebody noticed it, and then one day they saw Mav come in and then move it. I don't know, but I do know when I played, every time he walked in, he got that sign ready, and I saw James a couple times making sure that it was knocked down so that he do that. It was just an unspoken thing. It was just kind of fun. But that was James, right? He was a real team guy, and still is. I mean, he built a great World Junior team that I guess we're going to see in August now that came down today, right? So that'll be good. And he's built a really good team in Ottawa too. So real smart guy though.
Now, what about Mavity? What was he like, and how did that all play into effect getting moved the same time he did to Kingston?
Yeah, so Mav was great. Like he was really like he was just like real quiet, right? Like when I say quiet, I mean like he didn't have a lot to say all the time to the rookies. Like he was just, but when he spoke, you listened, right? And I remember one time we were playing, he phoned me up, and my dad. So he'd call for curfew, and his wife, Brenda, would call. So my dad owned this store called Foley Foods, and it was just down the street from my house, right? And so my mom goes, you got to go down and get some milk. And I was like, well, I got curfew in like 5 minutes. She's like, if they call, I'll let them know. Like, it's fine. Like, just go down and get some milk. So, they give me the keys. I go down to the store, and I get the milk. I come back. My mom's like, hey, Brenda called. Just call her back. I said, okay. So I phone. And Brenda answers the phone. She's like, hello. And I'm like, hi, this is Nick Foley calling you. She's like, oh, hey, Nick. Yeah, well, your mom just said you were going down to get some milk. I said, yeah, I'm just calling back. And Mav's in the background and goes, hey, Kent. And Brenda's like, oh, I think Mav wants to talk to you. And I get on the phone, and he's like, hey, you're going tomorrow. I said, oh, okay. He goes, don't fuck it up. And then that's it, right? And then he's like, yeah, Coop's sick. And we're playing Kingston, right? So we're playing Kingston on a Wednesday night in January. And we ended up winning the game like 3-2 or 4-2 or something like that. And after the game, I go in, and he's like, well done. I got, first or second star or something. And the next day, there was a thing in the Intelligencer, and it was like in the Sports Center, and the headline read, "In the Nick of Time," right? It was a play on a movie that came out around the same time, In the Nick of Time, and it was a nice little article about the performance. And I walk in, and Mav's like, hey, get in here. He's in his office, right? He's hacking a dart before practice. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, let me guess, your mom bought all the newspapers today. And I said, what? Because I came from school, right? I didn't see it. He looked, and it read, "In the Nick of Time." And I just looked at him, I go, Mav, that's yesterday's news. And he just starts laughing. He goes, get out of my office, And he just those moments, right? Like he was just such a good guy, and I loved him. He was my favorite coach. Him and Jim Halton were my two favorite coaches in the OHL. And so what happened, Brokey, to answer your question, his contract expired in Belleville, and then Kingston hired him. And Kingston hired him, and then I was in Belleville for my second year. Wasn't going well. They wanted to go in a different direction. So they put me on. No, they didn't. Belleville didn't send me anywhere yet. They didn't release me. They're just like, you're not playing here. We haven't decided what we're going to do yet, whatever. So I went down, I played in Coburg for a couple weeks just to kind of get some games or whatever. And then Mav phoned them and said, listen, let's put them on waivers, and we're going to pick them up because we need a goalie. So they had Curtis Cruikshank, and then they had another goalie they just weren't happy with. So at Thanksgiving, Mav, made a move for me, and I came in, and we had a real good team up there in Kingston, actually. We ended up getting beat out in the second round. We ended up having Like we had like Matt Bradley played in the OHL or in the NHL. Matt Cook played in the NHL for several years. Chris Allen played in the NHL. Like all these boys were draft picks, and they all played, and we had a good team. Ended up getting beat out by London, but should have went further. But yeah, it was good. So I played with him, and then after it was like Curtis Cruikshank and I were the same age. So Matt said, "Listen, we're going to put you. We're going to leave you unprotected because it was the expansion draft for Mississauga Ice Dogs." And I said, "Okay." And so Mississauga Ice Dogs picked me up in the expansion draft. So I went there, and so I ended up playing there, and then I ended up being their starter there for my 19-year-old year and my overage year. It was some trying times, but it was great playing with Don Cherry was my was our owner, and it was a lot of fun, man. It was good.
So you go from Mavity to Don Cherry, right? Kind of thing. So one,
So Don was
the old boys
like,
club, I
he
guess.
never coached. Oh yeah, man, it totally was. Like, but he was great. Like Cherry was great. Like he was like he'd always come in. He's always wearing his suits and stuff when he was at the games, but like in practices and stuff, he was always wearing these like zebra pants. I don't know, look them up. It was hilarious. Like they're like it's just some sort of fashion thing he'd wear, and he like they're like track pants essentially, and then he'd have jackets and his Ice Dog stuff. But he was really great. Like he was awesome to the team. He ended up giving me like tickets for my birthday for the Leaf games, and him and I had a really good rapport. Like he was really great. He was one of the reasons why they invited me back as an overage, which as you boys know in hockey, like there's only 2 overages as a team, right? So there's only there's 20 teams in the league. There's only 40 overage jobs. So I was fortunate enough to get one, and actually Mike Mole was the rookie in the year that I played, and I know he's a friend of the show, and he was a hell of a goalie as well. So yeah, he was a rookie when I was an overage. So and we had a great rapport. He's a fine young man, and I know he's doing well for himself. So and a great goaltender. So yeah, so I went there and I played there for 2 years, and then from there it was just kind of one of those things where I had an opportunity to play at St. Mary's in Halifax, and we went down and played there for 4 years, and had a great time. Got my degree and one of them, and it was a fun career, man. I'm very fortunate, very grateful for hockey.
I got one here, Brokey. So one memory I really have about you, Nick, is I think it was the year the Bulls won the OHL championship, but you came in playing for Mississauga, and I think the Bulls fired 60 shots at you one night, and you saved 58. You guys get the 3-2 win. Do you remember that game? And if so, like how did that night feel? It must have just been awesome, right? Just beating the hometown team.
Yeah. So that's a great story. So here's the thing. So that night, Brandon. So the year that they won, I went in there and they actually fired 66 shots at me, and we lost. We actually lost 9-1.
Okay.
Right. And I remember I came back as a 19-year-old. They were all over us. We were a horrible team. We lost 9-1. After going into the third period, I had like 50 shots, and the coach at the time was Peter Sturgeon, and he came in. He calls me out, and he goes, "Do you want to play in the third?" I said, "You're not taking me out. Like I'm just gonna gut it out, right?" And I ended up getting third star, and we like lost 9-1. I was embarrassed. I was so upset, but I also recognized I had 66 shots, whatever. So the funny thing is I never went out like after I never went out for the star thing or nothing. I just wanted to get off the bus or get on the bus. The next year was the year that you were talking about. And it was funny because I remember I was an overage coming in. Now check this story. So I was an overage coming in, and Casey Lamore, he's a longtime equipment manager in the OHL and Hockey Canada. And he's my cousin, right? And so he was equipment manager with the Bulls at the time. I'm in the stands taping my stick before the game. And he comes over, he just says hello, as we always did. He's my cousin. And he comes up to me and he goes, just let you know, last game you'll ever play in this barn against this team. And just walk down the stairs, right? And I was like, and it really sunk in, right? I was like, God, I'm an overage. I'll never be back home ever again. Like to play against the
thinking about that for some reason.
Yeah, man. So here's the thing. So I was like dialed in, and we ended up playing, and we got outshot. Yeah, it was 59 or something like that to like 23, and we won 3-2. And I'm not kidding you, Brandon, Brokey. After the game, I was so emotionally drained because I wanted to win against Belleville so bad in my hometown that I just took off my gear. I gave my stick away to a family friend. Bill Higgins, his name was. He's passed away now. Wonderful guy. His daughter and I were friends like since we were like kindergarten all the way up. And I saw him. I gave him my stick, and I had my hands on my pads, and I just started sobbing because I was just like so emotionally drained. You know what I mean? And of course, I had 60 shots, and I got first star. I went around. I just kind of waved at everybody and saw my parents for the first time in a while. Right, gave everybody hugs and uncles and things like that. And it was a hockey moment that I'll never forget coming back. I mean, it was just a loss on a early season game for the Bulls, but it meant a lot to me as an overage goalie coming back and playing in his hometown against a team that I grew up idolizing and loving and always wished well, but wasn't a part of. And it was one of those moments. But yeah, man, it was quite the journey. I got on the bus. I remember getting on the bus and I was like, my legs were dying. We actually lost the night before against St. Mike's. And I was playing that night, and I played Saturday night in Belleville, and then the coach came back, and everybody was like, that was a performance, right? When you get 50 shots and you give up 2 goals, like, you get upwards of 60 shots, give up 2 goals. It's like, it's not lost on you how significant that is. And my legs were killing me. And he goes, so we play Kitchener tomorrow afternoon at 1. You in? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. And I probably should have said no, because I think we lost to Kitchener like 5-2, and I gave up like 5 goals on 27 shots. But by the second period, I was like, oh my gosh, my legs were just so full of lactic acid. So fortunately, he gave us the Monday off, and we started the season 1 and 2. But we'll take it. 2 games on the road. But it was, man, it was an emotional night. It was an emotional night. That's hilarious that you thought of that, brother, because I haven't thought of that moment in a long time. It's amazing how you can recollect it when you recall it back into your mind, because it was a special moment seeing my friends and family. And I think my brother was actually playing in Coburg at the time, Brokey. I know you know him well. And he wasn't there, but all my rest of my family was there. And it was a real special moment for all of us, just to kind of have that, like I said, it was a cold November evening and on a Saturday night. And when you grow up in Belleville and you go to the games on Saturday, it was special to have that moment. And the crowd was so wonderful. Like, for them to stick around and give me an ovation after when I got named, the first star, and just to go out and wave and be able to, kind of have that moment. It was real special. Something that I'll never forget.
That's such an awesome story. You tell the passion in your voice with it too. So that's got to be like one of the stories you lead with when you talk about your hockey career, probably with the boys, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, when you play for the Ice Dogs, you don't get a lot of wins, so you remember the ones you do, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Just talking about the Ice Dogs, like, this isn't meant to be like a shot or anything. I was looking at some Ice Dog stats, but like, how rough was that team? Like, I was looking, Jason Spezza was a -49 one year.
What?
You guys must have had some rough nights at the office then. They're playing this saga.
Oh man, yeah, it was tough. Like, our first year, we were real bad, and our second year, we're probably just marginally better. But you know what? Like, it was one of those things. Like, I was grateful, right, because I was playing all the time, and so for me, I just had to make sure that I showed up with enthusiasm every night, right? And one of the things that I learned a lot in when you're losing that much, you learn not to quit no matter what. Like, we'd have games where we were down 3 or 4 goals after the first period, but you just never quit. I remember one time actually we lost to Barrie like 15-0. I think it's got to be the highest margin of OHL loss ever. And Jim Halton came back, and I remember because we were playing and we're trying not to. This is a good story. We're trying not to be the worst team in the history of the OHL. So London Knights hold that honor, and they had 66 games and they went 363 or 360-3. And so we were playing Barrie. They were real good. They had Sheldon Keefe and Jefferson, all those guys. And Jim Halton goes to me, goes, "You're not playing tonight. You're supposed to start, but we play St. Mike's tomorrow, and we have a better chance of beating St. Mike's than we do against these guys. You're in tomorrow." So I went to but then he goes, "But you got to tell your goalie partner, Josh Evans." So I was like, "Well, why do I got to tell him?" So I go and tell him, and Josh Evans looked at me. He's like, I'm not playing. You're playing." I said, "No, you're in. And we were down. I remember, man, we were down like. I think we're down like 8-0 going into the third period, and we're sitting in Barrie at the Labatt or Molson Center, whatever it's called, and it's really tight benches, right? So there's glass, and you're there, and then the trainer's like right beside you, and then there's the walkway. Right at the beginning of the period, we're down 8-0. Daniel Kachuk, his name was. He was a first rounder in Calgary. He scores a goal and makes it 9-0. Place goes nuts. We want 10. We want 10. Jimmy Halton's yelling at the end of the bench. "Foley, you're in!" And I'm just like this, dead stare, deadpan, looking forward, just like this. The trainer is literally hitting me with his elbow on my face. He's like, "Foles." I'm like, I hear him. Shut up. And he's just like, "You're Foles." I'm like, I look over, and he's like, "You're in!" And I'm just like, "Yeah, okay, thanks. I hear you." So I step on the ice, right? And I'm just like taking my sweet time and getting in there. check this out. I go in there. Again, stop the first one. I'm like, all right, here we go. We're going to be okay. I'm going to stop the bleeding. I give up 6. I give up 6 goals in 17 minutes. Honestly, boys, I'm not kidding you. True story. I get off the ice, and I actually said to myself, I actually felt really good. It just, nothing hit me. Like, it would bounce off like a defenseman, or like I'd make a great glove save, but I wouldn't catch it. It would bounce and someone would hit it. And like, it was just not very good night, but I felt good. So after the game, we're on the back of the bus, and Jimmy Halton comes over and he goes, boys, if we win tomorrow night, no one's going to talk about this loss. Trust me. And we're playing St. Mike's at the Gardens, and and I'm going in as they planned, and I go in. I give up the first shot and goal. 17:58 to go in the first period. We're down 1-0, and I'm like, oh boy, this is not going to be a good night. And it ended up being the greatest night that I've actually had, probably outside of the Battle game. We end up winning 2-1, and we end up not being the worst team in OHL history because we won on the 63rd game or whatever it was, and it was a real special night. So just to look up and you see the like Johnny Bauer and Terry Sawchuk and Turk Broda and all those retired jerseys, and I was having a night, right? And it was one of those days and afternoon at the Gardens, and we ended up winning 2-1. And he was right. Nobody cared about the 15-0 loss. Everyone just talked about, the 60 save performance by myself, but the win by the Ice Dogs. So it was good, man. The lessons that you learn, you kind of carry them forward. Just to be a good person, don't quit, resiliency, showing up every day, having enthusiasm. These things matter, and these are a lot of the lessons I learned in the OHL.
I love the talk about the coaches. Like, I thought you were going to say, well, I was just looking straight. I thought you were going to say, oh, my groin sore or something, or
No. I was just making them earn it.
Yeah. I love how the trainer's hitting you like you don't hear them, eh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. The place is going nuts, and it was Jay McDonald, his name was. And he's hitting me like this, and he's like, balls. And I'm like, I hear him, Macker. And he's just like, you're in.
Awesome.
I know, I'm going. God, do you think I want to go into this mess?
Yeah, 9-0. No, that's got to be tough. But I guess, you know what, like you said, you learn a lot too from losing. I mean, that's how you learn to win, right? And that's how you learn to overcome things. And I bet that's helped you not only in hockey, but the rest of your life too, right? Overcoming things like that, and knowing, hey, there's going to be bad times where you're going to lose 15-0, but there's going to be good times where you're going to make 60 saves and win 3-2. And you're not always going to have a good night, but try as hard as you can, and more of them will come, right? So it's good to hear stories like that. I really like it. It's definitely and entertaining too.
Good. I'm glad you liked it. Well, you know what really helped me, guys? I tell you is that year after my 3rd year, so I was 19. I ended up getting called by Muskegon Fury to go down to the United Hockey League, and this guy named Rich Cron calls me, and he says, come down and play. And I said, okay. Well, he's like, we'll give you, I think it was like $300 a week or whatever, and you get all the per diem and everything throughout the playoffs. He's like, but our number one goalie's hurt. We need a guy for the couple weeks, but then you'll stay through the playoffs. I go, well, how long do I pack for? He goes, 2 months. We're gonna win the cup. And I was like, do I get a ring? And he's like, yeah, you get everything. And I said, okay, I'm in. So they fly me down, and I go to Muskegon. And the reason why I'm telling you that story is because I really learned what it took to have that kind of championship pedigree. Like, I know it was the Colonial League, I get it, or United League, and it was Colonial Cup, got this big, beautiful ring, but like, just to be around that, what it took to win every day and how to conduct yourself as a pro really helped me going back as an overage, and then understanding, like, we didn't have a very good team my overage year, but because I won that championship, or I was part of that championship team, I was basically a third goalie. I was around pro men that were in their 30s and late 20s, and I was only 19. It really kind of helped me understand the importance of how to conduct yourself to win. And so even though it didn't happen next year as an OHLer, I went to St. Mary's, and we ended up winning the AUS championship, which is the first team to do that for that club in 25 years. And honestly, the lessons I learned in that experience around those pro players was real special. And you know who's the other call up for that? Chris Neal. And you remember Chris Neal, of course, a long, lustrous NHL career.
Oh, yeah.
And him and I shared a room in Muskegon. And I remember him getting called up, and he was fighting some guy, man. And I knew he was like a tough kid when he was fighting some guy, and he was holding him off. And the crowd, he's in Muskegon, and he starts going like this to the crowd. And he's like just right off the plane, like some kid, right? And I'm just dying laughing. But our first pro game was we picked him up in Madison, Wisconsin. That was my first pro game, my only pro game. And Chris was him and I. We had our first pro games together because he played his first game in Madison as well, and he had a playoff run. He actually played in the lineup throughout the entire run, I think. But it was real special time. So him and I became buddy. I mean, we didn't really talk after that experience, but we were together for we were the only 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds on the team. So it was him and I were side by side a lot. He was a good guy.
So how did that come up where you got to go to that league? Because you don't hear about that, and then you got to go back to the OHL the next year. Like how does all that happen?
Yeah, so I was like, so if you're 19, I think it was 20. So I was like a 19-year-old going on 20. So I turned 20 in March. And if you're 20, you can actually go down on the East Coast and play in the league and whatever. And then like if they want you to go and lots of times they'll get OHL players that are done for the season to come down and either be players and whatever. So Chris got beat out in the first round of the playoffs, and we didn't make the playoffs. And so I went down and was just like, played. I backed up like 3 or 4 games and then played a game. And then their number one guy was he came back, and so I was relegated to the third goalie, but just was practice goalie. And then Chris, we picked him up in Madison. Same thing. They claim you. And they just say, hey, listen, we've claimed you. Sometimes I think there used to be a draft. I don't know if they still do that. But they basically call you and say, hey, come on down. Like, we want you to come. And I had a couple options. I could have went down to Lubbock at the same time, but Muskegon said that they were going to win the cup, and Lubbock was only going to be for a few weeks. And I thought, well, if I go to Muskegon, I'll get paid more often, right? So I ended up going to Muskegon and then got paid all the way up through the playoffs and through the rest of the regular season. So it was good because and I got all the bonuses and everything. So that whole summer coming back, when I was training, I never really had to work because I was just kind of squirreled everything away, right? When I was playing. And so, even though I wasn't making a lot of money, I was still American dollars, and I just kind of kept it in my shoebox really, and then converted it over to Canadian in the summer. And, it was a few $1,000s, but that goes a long way when you're living with your parents with no expenses, And so I got asked to go to play in Bakersfield the next year from the captain of that Muskegon team to be a regular goalie there. But I wanted to go back as an overage. I felt that we were going to be better. We weren't that much better, but playing 4 years in was a goal of mine, and we ended up doing that. And then I got recruited to go to St. Mary's out of that. So so it was good.
I got kind of a 2-part question here. So the game you played, did you guys win that game, or how did that go? And then the second part is when you're getting $300 a week as like a 19-year-old kid, do you think you're just making bank at that time? Like, what was that like?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I must have been John Tavares, 10 sheets. Like, so we lost that game. We lost the game 4-1. But it was a pretty good night. I mean, I guess you can DB it, but like, I think I had a 90 save percentage. I had like 41 shots. They rested all the regulars, right? Like we were done. We already got first place. We were on a road trip. We won the first 2 games, and that was hilarious. Actually, funny story. So when I was backing up my first games, after the game was done, I'm walking out to the bus, and I'm just carrying my own stuff, right? And I go to the front of the bus, and there's like 4 players that were played like 40 minutes, and they're all hacking darts. And it was like, what am I doing? I felt like I was in Slapshot, right? They're just like, oh, you're starting tomorrow. Hey, here, like, it was a good first pro game, man. It'd be good for you. And they were all off the next day, right? So we rested most of our regulars, and they had a lineup, and it was in Madison. It was actually where the Wisconsin Badgers played, Madison, Wisconsin. And they had a team there, and it was last game of the regular season. So, but it was nice. It was good to get a pro game in, and it was a good experience. I actually was going to go down to Missouri after my overage year, but they wanted me to go 4 games before. And this is I kind of laugh at, because they wanted me to go 4 games before my regular season was done. And I didn't want to leave the team. Looking back, I should have. But Colin Chalk used to play in Kingston, asked me to come down. And I said, no, I'm going to stick it out. And they're like, we need a guy tomorrow, Foles. Like, come down now. We have a pretty good team, but we need a guy. You'll play in the playoffs. You'll play the rest of the season. There's like 15 or 12 games left or whatever. And I said, I'm just going to stick it out, man. Just wait. If you could wait until I get the next 4 done, it's my last year. He's like, no, I get it. They ended up getting Curtis Sanford from Owen Sound. And Curtis Sanford went down and played like unbelievable, and then ended up playing in the NHL for like all these amazing games in St. Louis, and played a great career, played over in Russia. So I always laugh. I was like, wow, if I would have said yes, I would have had Sanford's career. But
there you go. Yeah, you would have been an NHLer. What team was that? You said it was Missouri. What team?
Yeah, Missouri. I think it was. I don't know if it was Missouri Otters. It was in the United Hockey League, I think. But Curtis had something I did, and that was talent. So yeah, he would have found a way somewhere.
And then university, you said you won. You guys won a championship there. Was that your first year?
Second year, yeah. First year was good. Like, first year we were a good team with 11 rookies, a lot of OHL players, and then our second year we really found our way. We had a guy, Jim Midgley, actually. Jim and I played together in Belleville, and then he went down to St. Mary's and recruited me and him and a guy named Robin LaCour who used to play in Belleville. Steve Galacci, who was down there, used to play in Belleville, and those guys were all down there, and so they recruited me to go down, and the coach, of course. And we had a pretty good team. First year we didn't do so well, but the second year, we caught a heater and ended up winning the championship. Went to the Nationals, lost in the semis, but it was a great experience, man. It was just a lot of fun. Great guys. Those guys, I don't see a lot of my OHL friends, like, because I played on 3 teams, right? So you kind of, a lot of people coming and going. But the guys that I talk to, like, we have a group chat. We're actually in the Hall of Fame at St. Mary's for winning that championship game or team, and they're guys I talk to all the time. And Jim Midgley, I mean, he's coaching in the New York Rangers right now as an assistant there, right? So he's around the game, and a lot of good guys that are there. Brett Gibson was on that team, and he's coaching for Queens right now. And he's got a Hockey Canada pedigree with coaching and things like that. So yeah, we're just around a lot of good men, a lot of good people, and I'm very grateful to be in the presence of good people.
And Matt Coughlin, he went on. He played there too with one of your seasons, did he not?
Yeah, I played 2. So Cogs and I played together in Mississauga for 2 years. My 19-year-old year and my overage year, Matt was first and second. And then I think he got traded to Belleville when I started my first year at St. Mary's. And then he played his overage in Belleville. And then my first and second year at St. Mary's, he was in his third and fourth year in Belleville. And then came down to St. Mary's. And my third and fourth year at St. Mary's, he was in his first and second year. So we just kind of followed each other in our careers type thing. And great guy. I mean, you guys all know Matt. I mean, he's a stalwart in our community, and still a good friend. Don't see him as much anymore as kids and families and things. But I've known Matt for quite some time. Him and his dad and his mom and sister have been friends of our family for quite a while. So Matt and I, we grew up together with kids. And BJ Ketchison, he's now passed away, but BJ was a good friend of ours, and we played together in Mississauga. And him and Matt were real good buddies. And I was fortunate to play with Matty for 4 years, really, in 2 separate spots, and it was great.
I got one I want to sneak in here, Brokey. Nick, I just want to kind of circle back to your second year in the OHL. So going to Kingston. So being a Belleville boy and obviously a Bulls fan, the rivalry is pretty big with Kingston. Did you ever have like a little bit of thought, like, oh, I'm not reporting to Kingston, like, fuck that?
No. I never that's a good question, man, because like I just wanted to get back in the league, right? Like I was, when Belleville didn't want me on the team, like when I was like released from Belleville, they still owned my rights, and so I was in Coburg, kind of looking, for opportunities, and I knew I had to continue to play. So I went down there. I think I played like 5 or 6 games, maybe 7, and so I was down there for a couple of weeks. And so when Kingston phoned and said, "Hey, we picked you up. You have to be in practice tomorrow night." They phoned. It was a Monday. I had to be at practice on a Tuesday. I was just happy to get back in the league, and knew if I got back in the league again, I wasn't leaving, and I never did. But I was like, you kind of have that, the Belleville-Kingston rivalry, right? But there wasn't a doubt of not reporting. I didn't have any leverage. You're like, you're coming, or you're playing
you're
anywhere.
going for sure. Yeah.
So I enjoyed Kingston. I'll be honest. I played on both sides of the rivalry, and enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time. Enjoyed my time there. Just Kingston's a proud tradition as well, and 2 hockey towns that that deserve junior hockey, and Kingston still has it, and hopefully one day we can bring the Bulls back here.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Random question here, but why did you go to Coburg and not Trenton or Wellington? That just seems a bit odd. And you going to Coburg, did that have anything to do with your brother going to Coburg? Because he ended up playing there a year or 2 after. Just to read a couple randoms.
Yeah, the year after. So I always tell him that next time that you're talking to him, tell him the only reason why he's in Coburg, and he became a legend there, as you know. But the only reason why he's in there is because I carved the path for him. But no, I'll be honest, man. I had to get out of the city. And at the time, it wasn't a great breakup with myself and the Bulls in the sense that, like, paper was always calling. There was really no explanation as to where's Foley, like why, you know what I mean? And they didn't say much, and I wasn't saying much. And so I just needed to get away from the city. And so Coburg was far enough away that when they called, Coburg called Trenton, Wellington. So all these teams called, and I picked Coburg because they were 45 minutes, and I knew they said, listen, you can come and we'll billet you so that you're not in Belleville anymore. And so I needed to get out of the city and kind of reset and go from there. That's the reason why I picked the team. A lot of my friends like played in Wellington and Trenton and that, and it would have been, nice to play against. I played against them, but my thought was go there for a couple weeks and don't get comfortable, play well and get yourself back in the OHL, and it worked out. So that's why I picked Coburg. Yeah. So I went there. And then the next year, Johnny ended up making, I think it was the next year or the year after, he ended up making the team. And I think it was the year after maybe. No, I think it was the next year, actually. He made the team, and he was with Brian Drum, and that was his coach. And then Johnny ended up being the captain there and played there for 4 years. Yeah, he had a real good year there. Like one of the highest scores of all time there, I think.
Yeah, he was quite the legend. I remember when he coached me major midget. And one of our players, Adam McAllister, went and played a game at the end of the year kind of thing where they're resting guys. So we went up with John, a couple of us, and, he was showing us his old billet's house and all this stuff. Right. And everybody knew him. Yeah. Like like you say, he was a legend of the junior hockey in Coburg. So I just was trying to connect it. But honestly, that makes 100%, right? It didn't work out in Belleville. Everybody's asking questions. Like you say, that's a time where it's almost best just to get away, right? And then you're trying to get that energy, that negative energy, and start focusing on the positives. And obviously it worked out for you, right? Exactly. You were only there, 5 or 6, 7 games. You got back on track, and Mav called, and it looks like the rest worked out. So that's good. It's always a positive intake, right? I like to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. I love Belleville and the Vaughn family and everybody about it. But, it was just, it was one of those things. And you're a young kid too, right? Like, there's probably ego. There's, looking back now, I'm a 42-year-old man, but like, a lot of ego involved, and you're kind of like, get out of the city so I don't have to see anybody and talk to anyone. And my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, actually, she was kind of like, "Why are you going?" Like, but it was this is the game, and I just got to clear my head and go, and we ended up in Kingston. It was good. So Kingston was a really good fit for me, and would have loved to have played longer there, but it was really great. Loved being in Mississauga, and I think Kingston was a nice stepping stone to get me there, and being able to play in Mississauga was great. And my connection with Mav, I remember actually even when I was in Mississauga, I remember playing a game and they beat us in overtime, and he like this is in Mississauga. This is a good story. So we were playing Kingston, and they tied the game up 3-3, and they ended up winning in overtime. And they got themselves in the playoffs. And, I was having a pretty good night. We lost 4-3. And after the game, I'm skating out. And Mav's on the bench, on the opposition bench, and he yells at me, the Hershey Center. There's 3,000 people in the building. And he's like, "Hey!" And he never called me by my name. He called me Kid. "Kid, get over here." So I skated over. And he shook out his hand. And he goes, "Hell of a year you're having." He's like, "If you need anything, you let me know." And, and I said, "Thanks, man. That really means a lot." And I said, good luck in the playoffs. And then I said, "You're welcome." and he just started laughing. And then they went on to the playoffs. And that had Mav's streak in the playoffs. Like he made the playoffs every year, for 20 years. It was this like astonishing streak that they had. And they ended up, Mike Iannaro or something Iannaro, whatever his first name was, scored. I don't know why I remember that. I was sitting on my ass, and I look up and I see his long last name with his hands in the air. So, but they ended up winning, and they got in the playoffs.
I love your impersonation of Mavdy though. You got that down to a T.
Yeah, he's like, he's such a special guy, and like, he just, he's got that big voice. And I remember one time he used to always, he was so great. He used to always, like, we do like these flow drills, and Mav would like sit on the boards. Like he'd hang on the boards. Like you just hang on the boards and like just lean against the boards like this, right? And guys would, you go, that drill, right? You go 2-on-1 down, and then 3-on-2 back, and then 3-on-3 back, or whatever. And we're just kind of doing flow or whatever. And I remember Mike Lavelle like dumped the puck in, and and it hit Mav right in the shin pad, or right in the shin. But he's got no shin pads on, obviously. And he's like, mother F, and he swings his stick at like Lavelle, right? Like, I mean, it wasn't even close. And Lavelle's trying not to laugh, and we're dying laughing. He's like, God, he's like, there's 100 feet of ice here, and you hit my freaking shin pad. How the hell do you do that? Like, it's the biggest arena, biggest barn, you know. And it was just hilarious, right? But I mean, and he's laughing, Mav's laughing, and but he was such a good man, and just knew how to motivate, and you know, he's a tacticianalist for sure. A little different game back then than it is now, but he was just so, you just wanted to be around him, and when he spoke, he had such a presence. And I think in life, you know, if you can live your life with having such a presence like Mav had, then, you know, you're doing something right. Because I know it was a devastating loss for our community and the Kingston community and his family when he passed away last year. But I have to say, like, you know, it must have been a life well lived, because he enjoyed every minute of it. You know, I'll be the first one to buy the book if anybody ever writes the biography on him. You know, because you know, he's an extraordinary man. And you know, I guess that's a testament of a life well lived when you're sitting on a podcast with two buddies and you're saying how good of a man he was, right? I think that's all you can ask for, really. And I mean that, like, you know, that's a life lesson for all of us on how to conduct yourself. And you know, Mav was second to none to anybody I ever met.
Yeah, for sure. I just have one random question too. I just thought of. So when you first started talking, you were saying you were growing up, you would go to the Bobcat games on Friday nights and the Bulls games on Saturday nights. When did the Bobcats stop playing in Belleville? I didn't even realize they played that long.
Yeah, so this would have been like late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
I don't know when. I think they would have stopped probably in the probably midnight. I was probably like. No, I was born in 79, so I would have been 10 or 11 years old. And then so I think they probably would have stopped in the early 90s probably, but they used to play Friday night at Memorial Center. And man, that air was blue back then, like people just hacking darts, watching the game. And there's no, the boards were so low, right? Like, so the boards, and then like literally there was a walkway, and like if they were firing pucks in, like I remember one time they were playing like York, like some Simcoe team, and this guy fires a puck in and hits this young kid that was like two chairs behind me or beside me, and she's crying. They stop the game, and this kid kind of skates over. He's like, "Oh, sorry about that, hon. Here's a puck," you know. And she's like, "I'm like, I think she's got one. She took it in the chest, like, you know." And like, you know, but like, you know, there's no glass back then, right? And so, but it was like right on there, and the hockey was fast. But I loved it, man. My mom would get us down there, my brother and I, my sister, and like whatever friend we had, and we'd go down to the station wagon on Friday night and go down. My dad was working late, and we'd go to that game, and then we'd play our own games Saturday mornings and afternoons, whatever. And then we'd go to the Bulls game Saturday night. And, you know, I think looking back, my dad, I think, took us to the Bulls games. My mom just kind of was, you know, kind of stayed back because she had us on Fridays, right, at the Bobcat games. But it was, it was a good time, man. I really enjoyed that. Very fortunate to be around junior hockey, you know, and I think that the Senators probably do a good job here, but like, this is a junior town in my opinion. And you know, that's why I think that this is such a cool podcast, because, you know, this is a, you know, because you guys are great in that, but like, I just think that, you know, people love the nostalgia of Belleville Bulls. You know, there's something there about that, and it's a team to be proud of, you know, and be around. And there's so many different moving parts, and, you know, and there's just so many nuances to the team and to the game. And it was such a great time to be a Bulls fan. And I was fortunate to be a part of it for a brief period of time.
Who was your favorite Bull growing up as a kid?
Right? Yep.
Who was your
favorite Bull? Yeah, that's a good question, man. I liked when I was growing up. I liked Derek. Okay, so I had a couple of them. I liked when I was really young. I liked Greg Dreveny. I remember him. He was a goalie, and I liked him and Jared Scaldi. I don't know if you remember that name.
I remember Jared Scaldi.
So Jared Scaldi, DB, man, he's pretty good. So I had him. I liked him. And then as I got a little older, I was like 13, 14, I liked Derek Wilkinson. He was a goalie for Belleville, and he was real good. I really liked him, and thought he was really cool. And then I liked Tony Similero. He was a good player, and I knew him. He was my cousin, and I actually lived with his family when I was playing in Kingston, so there was a bit of a connection there. But I thought he was a good player. So yeah, I always liked the goalies. I always watched them. Honestly, man, like I wanted to play in the OHL so bad that my dad, after the game, would let me go down to the visitors and to the to the Bulls section after the game so I could see how those young men were acting when I was like 13, 14 years old. And so I wanted to know how I was supposed to act when I was playing in the OHL. And I would just kind of watch them. And I was just a little kid, and, I'd ask for autographs and stuff. But I remember seeing like Tyler Moss in the NHL. He was playing for Kingston, and even after a bad loss, like he was, talking to little kids, and he made time for me. Like I just asked for an autograph and whatever. But I would watch, I'd stand behind like one of the poles. I mean, it sounds weird, but like just a little kid, right? I just wanted to play in the OHL so bad. I want to play in the NHL, but I figured I got to get in the OHL first. And I just wanted to see how they were acting after. And honestly, that's what this league's about, though, right? It's about, inspiring young children and that to want to be their best selves to play in the league. And as I got older and got more attention from scouts and things like that, then I realized, this might be an opportunity. And then when I realized, like, other than that one time when I ran out of the building after giving up 5 in the third, I really tried to do my best to make as much time as I could for people, especially little kids, and because they grew up to be adults and they grew up to have influence in some capacity. And, I was raised right and trying to instill that in my children now. But yeah, man, like I honestly really love that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And I think being around that league and being around the Bulls in particular was good for my, myself growing up. And that's why I think it's so important to get that team back here.
Yeah, it would be for sure. And everybody we have on kind of says the same thing about Belleville being, a junior team, right? A junior community, right? And like you said, it's hard to, nothing against the Belleville Senators, but it's hard to say, hey, when I grow up, I want to be a Belleville Senator, right? It's almost like it's that close to the NHL, right? Where you're like, when I grew up, I want to play for the Belleville Bulls. I want to go to the OHL, make that step, and then try and make the next step, right? So I think that's where one of the biggest connections are. So I love your attitude and how you said because when you're 12, 13, 14, you're at that age where you're learning so much, right? And that's a big development stage to when you're 16, 17, ready to make that jump into the OHL or junior hockey, and just learning not only what they're doing on the ice, but how they're acting off the ice. And like you say, not only after wins, because everybody's happy after a win for the most part, unless you didn't play much, but acting, hey, they lost tonight. It was a tough loss. He's still out. He's still talking to the community. He still knows he's got to be a human being, right? And we all have to live and learn from them, right? So I loved hearing that aspect of it because we haven't heard that before.
Yeah, no, that's it, man. And, and it really helped me, actually, I'll be honest. Now thinking back, like, it helped me to be able to conduct myself in a certain manner playing in Mississauga, because we did nothing but lose, right? And so, you had to put it behind you because there was young kids looking at you, and we had to make sure that, once you could be pissed off in the dressing room, but once you leave that dressing room, it was time to conduct yourself to a standard that's conducive to, who you want to be, and you make mistakes. We're all young, but at the time, but like, it's important. Yeah. So you bring up a good point, Brokey.
Yeah. Nick, you've been very generous with time, so I don't want to keep you too long, but I have one more question that I got on my list. I got to ask. Yeah. Jason Spezza, how sick was he in Mississauga?
Awesome. So Jason, just an awesome individual. Like his answers, right? Like you watch him today, like, he's in the press conference. He's just so, so cerebral in his thought, right? And as a young man, like, he was such a good kid. Like, we just loved having him on the team by far. He was an underage and on the team, and I was an overage. I drove him home, I actually got an illegal lane change ticket driving him home once. So if you're talking to him, he owes me $100. And so but a great family. And he was just a hockey, guy. He just loved being around hockey. He was so inquisitive. He just was a great individual to be around. And I remember a couple times, like, he played for Team Canada when they had the travel national team, and he was down in Belleville, and we'd connect. And then I was at St. Mary's. He was with the Ottawa Senators, and we saw him out one night, and, we had a, just brief exchange kind of thing. And, they were playing an exhibition game in Halifax, and, he's just a really good dude, and loved playing with him. Like I said, I played with him for a year, and then I graduated out of the league. But yeah, he was a really good guy to be around, and I think obviously he comes from a great family, and they were always around the rink, and really nice, and that, and I was, as an overage, I felt it was my duty to make sure. We had 2 underages at the time. And Jason was one of them, and it was just, as an overage, you want to take him under your wing a little bit, right, and just be like, this is kind of how the league works and stuff. And even though he played a year before that in Brampton, but yeah, he was an exceptional player, and he's an exceptional young man back then. He's an exceptional man now. That's the best advice that's what I can say about him.
Yeah, I love Jason Spezza. Just I don't know if you heard, what did he do with the AHL team? Like he's rallied all the guys in the Leafs to give a bunch of money to guys in the AHL, so they made like a living wage during the lockout or something, or during COVID. Actually, that's what it was. So just a great guy. But so in shootouts, how would you take him, or was he sneaking some by you?
No, not some. All. Like he was
wasn't there like
underagers
can't score on the overage that many times?
Yeah, he can. Here's the story. So I remember one time we were playing in Kingston, and he scored a goal, and he skates back to me, and then I was in Mississauga. We're playing in Kingston, and he says to me, he goes, "Foles, I think I might get a hat trick." And I said, if that's the case, get all the pucks, not just the last one. And he scores his first goal, and he scores, throws the puck, scores the second goal, throws the puck, scores the third goal. And in OT, we won it in the winner. We won it. He scored the OT winner and gave the puck to the trainer. So he's standing there as an underage guy with his first OHL hat trick, and he's got all three of the pucks because he predicted that he was going to score. He's like, I think I get the hat trick. I go, keep all the pucks. He's got them all. I don't know what he's got them now. He's probably still be in Kingston. But I remember him looking at it. They're taping all the first of the third, or first of my hat trick, second of the hat trick, third of the hat trick, and they're all sitting there. And yeah, he's a pretty special young man. But no, I couldn't stop him. He had a rocket shot. I could be standing, and I'm not overly tall, but 5'10", 5'11", whatever. And I could be standing in the net, and he found a way to put it on the bar. He was just a special talent, a special human being, and a special talent, man.
Best player you ever played with or against, even?
Most talented. Yeah, I'd say he's the most talented player I've ever played against. Best player I ever played with, I would say, would be Jason as far as talent goes. I would say, yeah. Danny was real good, real talented young man too. I'm not surprised. I mean, Jason's played in the league for 15 years, and Danny played in the league for a decade in the NHL, so not surprised at these guys. But I would say those two guys were Matty Cook actually was he wasn't overly talented, but he was a heck of a player because and he ended up playing 1,000 games in the NHL, right? So guys like that, I was fortunate to play with some good players. I had there were some talented players, man, that I played with that you guys would never hear of. They just had all the talent in the world, but they were really good in morning skates, but just couldn't figure it out at night.
Practice players, as we call them, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. They were gold. Actually, was a really good player that I played with was Chad Wiseman. He actually played in the NHL for a bit too. He played in Mississauga with me. He was real good. I remember one time he was on the power play. You put the forward back on the D. He was on the power play, and we were at home, and he was doing a backhand saucer across the blue line, and he did it once and got away with it. And I'm sitting there watching it, and sitting the other end, we're on the power play, and he does this backhand saucer across the blue line. I'm like, oh boy, that's dangerous. And he goes 2 seconds later, the puck goes around the wall, goes to his side of the D, and he does it again. And the forward just puts his hand up, takes it down the breakaway, shelves it, right? And he scores on me. And I'm sitting there, and I'm on one leg, I'm on one knee, my knee up, and I'm looking at him, and he stops, and he goes, I go, really? Back-to-back backhand saucers? He goes, I know, but if I would have got it through, it would have been sick. And I was like, yeah, but now we're down one. And I just thought it was so funny, right? Because he's just like, yeah, but if I would have got 2 fulls, it would have been a sick play, right? I'm just, and how do you not chuckle? I just laugh. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Wisey. You're right. But he was a real good player that you may not have heard of, but I was fortunate, man. Those guys were all good. But yeah, Jason and Danny were a cut above as far as individual talent goes, for sure.
Yeah. Now, just a couple things. I know you've done a lot of things with the community, which I kind of talked about, and you have 20K Sock Day. Maybe you want to talk about a little bit about that, with everything you have going on.
Sure, man. Yeah. 20K Sock Day is a campaign that I started 3 years ago. This is our 4th year doing it now. It actually ends tomorrow. So this is or the February 18th. I don't know when this is going to air, but it ends on February 18th. And so what it is we try to my business partner and I at the time, we ended up closing the company, but Phil Kerr, we decided that we wanted to start a campaign where we'd get as many people to talk about, homelessness in our communities, in our country, on a consistent basis. And we're going to try to raise as many pairs of socks as we could. So our first year, we started to say, we're like, we're going to call it 20K Sock Day. And we did. And we ended up getting like 28,000 pairs of socks. And then the next year, we ended up getting like 66,000 pairs of socks. And then last year, we ended up with COVID, we ended up getting like 170,000 items. And then this year, so we're really, really fortunate. And so this year, our goal every year is to get over 20,000 pairs. And so we're, as I'm talking today, right now, we're up around, 14, 16,000, and there's lots of numbers to still come in. So yeah, very fortunate. And it goes coast to coast to coast, like all the way up to Nunavut, all the way to Newfoundland, and all the way to BC and Calgary and everything in between. Lots of people from different schools and organizations and businesses are involved, and we're very fortunate, man, to do it. And I just enjoy, just trying to be someone in the community that can leave, a bit of a, I don't know if it's an impact, but just try to help where I can. Canada is a rich nation that has, over 250,000 people that experience some sort of homelessness, and in any given year, and that's a lot of people. And so it's not about just the socks, but it's about raising that awareness, and we do it every year. And I'm very fortunate because I'm around a lot of people that volunteer their time. It's all just volunteer. And, and so we're really excited by the amount of people that have given back and that have, doing their part. We've got everything from, 2 pairs of socks to 2,000 to 7,000, and lots of people have been giving back, and we're very fortunate. So yeah, that's the campaign. So go get involved. It's 20ksockday.com. And like I said, it ends on February 18th, but we're hopefully going to do it again next year. And really easy to get involved. All you got to do is you buy local pairs of socks locally, and then you donate it to your local shelter. And doesn't matter what community you're in, we can find it, food banks, shelters, things like that. And then you just tell us your number on February 18th, and that's it. That's the socks, or that's the campaign. And so over the years we've raised well over a couple 100,000 pairs, and we're very fortunate to do it. And I like doing it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's unbelievable what you guys are doing for the community, right? And I think the biggest thing you said too is it's not only just about donating socks, but it's about creating that awareness that even with a rich nation like we have in Canada, that there's still a lot of people that don't live the life we do, right? And that struggle just to have ends meet, to have a home or a roof over their head. So I absolutely love the idea. How do they know the numbers? Like, how do the numbers work? So
what they do is that's a great question. So what happens is like, say like you and Brandon like decide that you're going to donate like 13 pairs of socks, right? So You just basically buy 13 pair, random number, I know, but you just buy 13 pairs of socks, you donate them locally, and you just call us or send us an email. We've got a big database of like full of emails and things like that. And then you just say like Jeff Brokema, 13 pairs, and we write it down. And then at the end of the night, we just tally them all up, and it's not an exact science, obviously, but at the end of the night, we tally it all up, and we come up with the number. And we've been very fortunate with the amount of people that have been doing it. So we're really, really grateful for it, man. And like you said, it's 100% about raising that awareness. Socks are important, clothes are important for sure, no question. You can't dispute that. But it's about raising that awareness, and that's where it counts.
Now, since we're getting so late into the deadline, can people still donate? I guess, would it count towards next year, or just curious?
Yeah, we do that all the time. Yeah, good question, Brokey. We do it all the time where people will come in like 4 or 5 days later, and then my assistant just writes it down and says, hey, we donated 50 socks. Perfect. And we write it down. We just count it for next year's total. So I think last year we had like a spillover about 1,100 pairs or whatever. So we just added it to this year, and that we just do that moving forward. So that's a good question. Because we just do the campaign until February 18th. And the reason being is because we're just so, you can't do it all year. But we also realize that, homelessness doesn't end on that day, right? It's all year, every day of the year, right? You got to do something. But so our thought is if you donate throughout the year and you tell us your number on the day of or the day you do it, we just file it away till the next year, right? So, you can do it anytime, man, anytime at all.
Well, I love the idea, and we're definitely going to help out with what we can with Pay It Forward Sports and Boot Club Sports. So I know Fleming and I will chat after, and we'll see what we can come up with. But we absolutely love what you're doing, and keep up the great work.
Thanks for having me on, boys. This has been a real pleasure. It's nice to hash out some old memories and take a trip down memory lane and keep up the good work. I got to admit, one of the things that you realize when it comes to podcasts is it's you need to cultivate it over time. And I think you gentlemen have been doing a good job with that and getting on guests. And it's nice for guys like myself who's a listener to listen to the stories of guys that I've played with and guys that I know of and things like that. So cap tip to both of you for a job well done. And anything I can do to help, let me know. I'm grateful to be here.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming on. Maybe one of the next guests we might be able to get on is your brother. Maybe we'll get him on one day, and he can tell some junior A stories.
There you go. Get that legend on. Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen him in a long time. Hopefully he's doing well. He lives in Coburg now, right?
Yeah, he owns a food land in Coburg.
Yeah.
He's doing really well. Him and I are we've got we got a business together in real estate and things like that. We talk every day. So he's doing really well. Yeah, he's a smart young man, and he's got a few children that they're all really well raised, and he's doing well. He's a good guy.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks a lot for coming on today, buddy. We really appreciate it, and best of luck with 20K Sock Day this year and for years to come. And we're going to do our part to help spread the awareness.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Well, guys, welcome back. We hope you enjoyed that interview. I know we sure did. We loved it personally. I love the fact when he said he had a rough game, which goaltenders have, especially when you're 17 years old, and he's leaving the rink and he's trying, he leaves the rink right early so no one can see him and tells his parents not to answer the phone. That way he couldn't get cut. But he ended up making the team that year, so good on him. But just some funny stories, eh, Flem?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, 4-year OHL career, played 4 or 5 years Canadian University as well. So just kind of speaks to the opportunities that hockey can bring you to, if you stick with it and grind it out. So no, I thought Nick had a great career. I loved the interview, tons of fun, and thanks a lot for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nick. And we did sneak into the 20K Sock Day. It did end on Friday, I believe it was. And I think I just saw the numbers today, and it was, I don't want to say it wrong, 47,000, I think, socks they raised, and their goal was 20,000. I could be wrong on that, but either way, they surpassed their goal. So good on Nick and his team, and they're raising awareness for a great cause. So good on them. And for anybody listening, you can always if this year's too late already, but you can always donate and get in for next year. But now we move on and we talk about another loss with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hey,
Another loss. It's only one in a row, but
is that it? Oh, okay.
The Leafs did lose last night, 6-3 to St. Louis. Just kind of one of those wild games. The Leafs came out flat to start. The Blues got off to a 2-0 lead, and then playing catch up the rest of the game. And just watching the game last night, I know I've just kind of been like a dead horse this one, but I've been just beating the defense all season long. They need to get better on defense, especially on the right side. Just tons of problems there. Like Liljegren could be a really good defenseman in a couple of years. Like, he's got a good compete level. He shows he wants to. He works hard. He's not afraid to take the body. He's a little undersized, but he's still learning how to compete right now. Justin Hall is a guy I'm really disappointed in. For a guy that's like 6'4" and can skate like the wind, if Hall just really wanted to become a physical presence and just put that effort in, he'd be a 10-year NHLer. But right now, he looks like he's almost on the outskirts of the lineup. Like, that guy can barely even crack the NHL. He was a -2 or 3 last night, lots of mistakes, and he can just do things that would help his game so much. If he just even took the body just a little bit, I mean, it would just stop so many things that are coming their way. So, I mean, Leafs really need help on the right side, and they go and they trade Nick Ritchie last night. So $2.1 million off the book. So maybe that frees up some space for another defenseman to come in at the deadline, Brokey.
Yeah, so it's an interesting trade. Ryan Dzingel back,
yeah.
And how do you say the other guy's name?
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to Don Cheers Lubinishkin from Arizona. So he's a right shot defenseman. So, I don't know much about him either. So we'll see how that plays out, right? But I mean, the Leafs need 2 guys to play on the right side right now. Like, I don't think Hall's the guy to play on the second pairing, and I don't think Liljegren's probably the guy to play on the third. So, I mean, the Leafs need to find some help. They found this guy. We'll see what happens. I don't know if he's the impact guy they're looking for, but I mean, then they get rid of Nick Ritchie and his $2.1 million cap hit for next season as well. So it frees him up to do some things this year. And Dzingel does add a little depth on forward. Like, he's definitely a top 9 forward, I would say, Brokey. So I mean, the Leafs got an excess of forward now. I can see something going down where, I don't know if Dzingel might stay all year. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but I mean, the Leafs need more help on defense. I was watching the game last night. Mark Giordano will be a guy that I'd kind of be looking out of Seattle. They're they're not going to make the playoffs. So Giordano is probably the right shot guy they're going to be going after. Other guys you look at, maybe like Colin Miller, see maybe if Zdeno Chara can kind of flip from the left to right, but the Leafs need help on defense, and last night just proved that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I always like Dzingel. I mean, you never know. He's a guy they might be able to slot in if there's an injury or two as well. But definitely, I think the right-handed shot guy, I don't want to say his name because I can't pronounce it, but I don't think he's going to fix Toronto's problems.
No.
But I think just get rid of Richie. Obviously, that signing didn't work out. And Toronto's going to be making some more moves down the stretch here before the deadline, no doubt about it. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. But I would bet my bottom dollar they're going to make at least one or two more trades. So it's interesting to see.
I think that
what
the Dzingel thing does.
What do you think about Toronto's goaltending the last couple of months? I mean, last month anyways.
Oh, it's been shaky, buddy. That's been a dicey ride at goaltending. I was thinking last night, and I was texting another buddy about this, and if Marc-Andre Fleury's on the market, and I don't think the Leafs will do this, but Marc-Andre Fleury's the guy that's going to be out there from Chicago. He's probably the best goalie that could be available. I'd be sniffing around Chicago if I was Dubas. I'd be looking, saying, hey, Marc-Andre, you want to come win, want to win one more cup playing in Toronto? Like, I don't know how it's going to play out, Brokey. That's a real dicey one, but I'd definitely be looking if I was Dubas. I'm not confident for sure.
What would your trade be for Marc-Andre Fleury?
Well, I think it's got to be Mrazek, just to even out salaries. Like, Mrazek's not going to be the starting goalie next year. So I would say the deal is Mrazek plus maybe like a guy like Kerfoot and or Dzingel, and then a pick or a prospect. Like a first-round pick's probably going to go the other way. So that'd be the deal I'm looking at. If I'm the Leafs, I'm looking to get Flower and maybe another defenseman from Chicago in exchange for that package and see if it works. I mean, the Leafs don't have many great prospects in the system right now. It is what it is. Your best prospect's probably Nick Robertson. He's been hurt 2 years in a row, so there's not any value there, really. Like, I don't think teams are barking up that tree, Brokey, but we'll see how it plays out. Yeah, if the deal comes along to get Marc-Andre Fleury, Dubas should jump on it because this is the Leafs year. You got to shake, you got to chop, you got a chance, and you got to go for it. I mean, you can't have goalies giving up 5-6 goals a night, and that's what it's been the last month. So you got to look at plan B at this point.
What if they say we want Soupy?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, for 1 year, absolutely. I'm pushing. If I'm Kyle Dubas, I'm pushing all my chips into the middle this year. I'm not really too concerned about who's going to play goalie next year. I'll figure that out in the offseason. I mean, you don't even know if Campbell's going to be back. That's the thing. Campbell's played well enough. Like, what if Campbell wants $5 or $6 million next year and he's had a month like this? I mean, I don't know if you can give that to him. So if they want Campbell, I would be completely fine going Campbell for Marc-Andre Fleury and some sort of swap for sure.
Yeah, I would as well. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I like the idea of the Fleury though. Get him in there. He gets hot. He's somebody that can definitely take your team to on a run. Anyways, and we've seen him many times before with him.
There were some rumors that he might go back to Las Vegas there last week. Like, there were some rumors because Robin Leonard got hurt, and I don't know how that would play out. But another team to watch for in that, the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, they need a goalie. They're serious contenders. I don't
think he'll go to Vegas. I think that was just somebody pushing that because I think him and his agent don't like Vegas and everything that happened there. Yeah. He kind of got screwed around a bit, and I forget his agent's name, but his agent's a big agent, and I remember him tweeting even stuff. And I think that bridge has been burned in Vegas. I think that's somebody just blowing smoke. But we'll see. I would be surprised if he doesn't go somewhere though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's time. I don't know. Colorado's got to be in there. And Colorado's probably got the pieces to get it done over Toronto, but I don't know. Sakic's always pretty stingy. So, I mean, if Marc-Andre Fleury is available, I'm pushing my chips in and betting on him this year over Campbell and Mrazek. So if it takes Soupy or it takes Mrazek, either one, I'm fine with it. And I worry about next year at this point. I mean, it's now or never for the Leafs, buddy. I mean, we don't have another 2-3 years to see how it plays out. You got a good lineup, get a hot goalie and see what happens. That's what I would do. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, no, I agree with you there.
So what else you want to touch on here? Do you want to get into the centers? Just one thing though. I don't know. Does this Nick Ritchie trade make Dubas look bad? I mean, he's a guy you just brought in like 6 months ago, gave him 2 years at 2.1, and you don't have a lot of cap space to play around with in Toronto. And I mean, you bring Ritchie in, it doesn't work out. He can't slot in anywhere. He does, he's in the minors. What does that say about Dubas? Like, what does it look like? I know he's had some good value signing, but this one looks bad on him, in my opinion.
You know what, Flem? I mean, you're right in a sense. you're right that it does look bad on you. But I mean, if you're a GM, I would rather have my GM going out trying to do things to make the team better than sit back and do nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what aggravates me as a GM that doesn't do anything, doesn't try and make plays in the deadline. The thing is you're never going to hit them all. There's always going to be signings. There's always going to be things that don't work out. I mean, what you need to do is you need to have more that work out that don't.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you might have some success. So, I mean, I wouldn't be too hard on Dubas for this signing. I mean,
Okay,
I've turned Dubas in the past, but.
Well, okay, so Dubas's two big signings in the offseason are Nick Ritchie and Peter Mrazek. That's $5.5 million of cap space. That's all the cap space you had to allocate this year, and you gave it to a backup goalie and a guy you've already traded. And I mean, the Leafs had to give up a second round pick to get rid of Ritchie. It's not like it was free to give him up, right? So I mean, I don't know. This looks bad on Dubas to me, buddy, because I mean, he's the one that went with this salary structure to pay the big, $3-4 all the money, and he's supposed to be the analytical guy that can come in and find guys on good deals, and he has found some guys on good deals. I'll give him that, but he swung and missed too. And I mean, when you only have $6 million to play with and you waste $5.5 million on a backup goalie and Nick Ritchie, that doesn't look good. So I mean, if the Leafs swing and miss and they're in the first round this year, and I know I said this last year after Montreal, I'd be calling it a wrap on Dubas. And I kind of like Dubas. I think he's done some good things. I think he's a smart guy, but I mean, I want results. This isn't the try hard league. This is the get it done league. So, I mean, if he can't get it done, I'd give someone else a shot now.
Yeah, for sure. If it doesn't happen this year, I mean, I thought it was going to happen after last season, but 100% if it doesn't happen, if you guys don't get past the first round, Toronto doesn't get past the first round for sure. But did he not sign a couple guys like Bunting and who's the other guy?
Bunting was a great good one. Yeah, he signed Kemp and Kasha too. To decent deals.
I mean, it's not all negative, Fleming. You're being hard on the guy.
I know, but
he did have a couple good ones there with good signings that have really turned out that were also in the off season. So, I mean, these ones, Mrazek, I don't think money wise, maybe it's not a great signing. I think he's open just more depth goaltending, especially if there's an injury. But at the end of the day, at least he's trying to get out of it, right? Rather than just keep,
sure.
To lose a little bit for the Ritchie, but he realized, hey, this was a mistake, time to move on. There's nothing worse than a guy that just keeps putting it out there, and it's not working, right? Sometimes you just got to realize, move on. So we'll see. I think I'm definitely with you, though. If it doesn't work out this year, they have to move on from, no doubt about it. So he's got to put all his chips in and do whatever he can this trade deadline.
Yeah, so I just don't know what he has to play with at the trade deadline now. He's got a little bit of cap space. I mean, I think the Leafs are going to be in the spot where they have to take something away from their roster to add to this roster. So, you're going to have to get rid of a Kerfoot or Dzingel now that he's there. Dzingel's probably a guy that I think you can flip. He's a good offensive guy, on an expiring contract. So a team around the fringes may want him or add him for depth, a really good team down third or fourth line down the end. So I think this Ritchie trade made the trade deadline really interesting for Kyle Dubas. He can go a lot of different ways. We talked about the Campbell for Flower kind of deal. You can flip Kerfoot or Dzingel for another forward, another defenseman. I mean, it's not so much like last year where it's a first round pick and a prospect. The Leafs can do a few things here with the guys they have. So I'm really curious to see how it plays out, Brokey.
Yeah, me too. It'll be interesting. So we'll have to watch that down the stretch. But before we get into my Senators, we haven't talked about this team in a while, and I'm just going to bring it up. I've got two good reasons to bring it up. The Belleville Senators. So the Belleville Senators swept the Toronto Marlies this past weekend. I forget the scores, but I know they won the second one in overtime. So good on the Belleville Senators. And now they're allowed to have, I think, 50% fans. So they actually get some fans. So good on the Belleville Senators, beating the Marlies, right? Right, Flem?
Yeah, go ahead. Nick Ritchie wasn't there, so you can probably take that one.
And Ottawa lost last night to Boston in overtime. I mean, to be honest, though, it's hard to be, I know Boston didn't have Marchand, which is arguably their best player, him and Bergeron, but Ottawa didn't have Murray's hurt. Chabot plays more minutes than anybody in the NHL. He's hurt, and probably their top two forwards outside of Chucky. They're all mixed in, Batherson and Norris. So, I mean, take a team to overtime isn't that bad of a game. So I still think the future looks bright for my Ottawa Senators. I've said it, and I'm going to say it again. The Ottawa Senators make the playoffs next season.
Next season, eh? We got $100 on that, Brokey. So remember that. So remember that bet when it comes up.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm fine with it.
So I don't know what else we got to talk about, Brokey. So here's my thing. I'm kind of thinking about what the Leafs need at the trade deadline. I'm going to give you three names. If you're Kyle Dubas, which one do you go after to play defense? You go after Mark Giordano, Zdeno Chara, or Colin Miller. Those seem to be like the three big names that could be coming Toronto's way. I know there's been some talk about Josh Manson, but I've heard Manson has Toronto on his no trade list. So that sounds like it's a no-go. So Out of those three, which one are you picking up, Brokey? Or are you taking a swing at least?
I don't know. That one's kind of tricky, eh?
So Giordano and Miller are both right shot.
It would be nice a few years ago. I think he might be past his prime. And I don't think is Chara going to be traded.
Well, the Islanders don't seem to be in it, right? So
Giordano, true enough. Giordano, is he going to be traded? I mean,
he'll be traded. I think he'll be traded.
What they're willing to give back, right? The problem here is like, what is Toronto going to want to get back? They don't have many picks. They don't have many prospects. I mean, I guess they have an already amount of picks, but
well, the first is in play for sure. The first round pick's 100% in play.
Yeah. So, I mean, you gave up last year's first round, though, did you not?
Yeah, and the year before.
And the year before.
And so I believe the year before as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, so there goes the first rounders. So we'll see. I don't know. I think Giordano might be the best guy, but that one's tricky. Who would you take?
You know what? I've never been like a huge Giordano fan. If Giordano's coming cheap enough, I'd take him. But I would like to get Zdeno Chara on the team just because I think the Leafs need a physical defenseman, and that's what they need. They need someone just to come in and to lean on guys and be a bit of a presence and kill penalties. Like they're missing that Zach Bogosian type from last year, who was a big piece, I thought, in that third pair last year that could kill penalties. So, it's tough to say. We've had a lot of history with Chara, but if Chara's available, I would definitely take a swing at Chara and see if we could flip him over the right side, just put him on the third pairing and kind of show the young kids how to play in the NHL a little bit. I think Liljegren's a guy who needs some mentoring. Same with Travis Dermott, and who'd be a better mentor than Zdeno Chara. So if I could take Chara, I think I'd go out and take that swing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, like you say, to see what route they go and if they get anything done. I think Toronto gets at least one, possibly two more trades done before the trade deadline. So
yeah, for sure.
We'll see. Definitely need a deal.
Yeah. Not really much else going on. The Edmonton Oilers went on a huge run since they fired their coach and brought the new young kid in. A big 4-2 win yesterday. Connor McDavid with 3 points. They seem to be playing free and loose. So I heard you kind of talk about this on Facebook, Brokey. Are the Oilers suddenly contenders again?
Oh, I think they're definitely got a chance. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to goaltending. I mean, they're getting some great goaltending the last 5 games. It's funny how that works. A new coach comes in and goaltending works. Did that not happen for Bruce Boudreau? I mean, I'm pretty sure when he started, they were 5 or 6-0
the way Edmonton's playing is like the worst news for like any coach on a struggling team right now, because Boudreau comes in, wins like 6 in a row. I think his name's Woodcroft, comes in, wins like 5 or 6 in a row. If you're like a team on, if you're a fringe, if you're a team that's kind of had some struggles right now, and the GM's looking around saying, hey, look at all these new coaches coming and having success. You got to be shitting your pants if you're on the hot seat right now, because they're probably antsy to pull the trigger. It's a copycat league, right? So they think, hey, that works for me. If I can steal 10 points, I'm going to steal them. So I'd be real worried if I was some coaches on the bubble right now.
But the biggest thing, though, is you have to look at why are they having success. Mm-hmm. And both teams, Vancouver and Edmonton, it's goaltending. They're getting saves. So I don't know if it's the coach doing much of that, if they're kind of getting a little lucky, or it's just that time to get some goaltending. I mean, when Edmonton went on that run there where they weren't winning, they didn't play that bad. They just couldn't get a save, right? Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, same thing for playoffs. If you don't have a goalie that can make some saves, you're not going to have success, no matter what. And if you do have a goalie that is good and is on fire, well, look what Montreal did last year. Look at how far they went. Yeah. They went that far on Carey Price. Yeah, Weber and other guys chipped in and do well. But if it's any other goalie, they don't go that far. That's my opinion. I think he played the best that he's played, or some of the best hockey Price has ever played, right? So I mean, look at them this year. It's a huge hole, right?
If you're Edmonton, you take a swing at Flower. If you're Edmonton, you take a swing at Marc-Andre Fleury at the trade deadline. Like, do you look? I think you got to look, right? Like,
I don't think Edmonton has the goaltending that's going to win them Stanley Cup. Period.
Agreed. And you have the best.
Know if Toronto does or not either. Campbell isn't really proven as much. We'll see. I don't think he does. He kind of seems hot and cold, but we'll see. But I don't think Edmonton does. I mean, again, Flower knows what it takes, but I think Flower's somebody that needs a good backup too. He seems to be good when he's competing. Yeah. I always found that with him. If he's competing with a guy, he really elevates his level. And, everyone says he's one of the best teammates to play the game, especially for a goaltender, right? So, if you can get this, like, even a Mrazek, like if you bring in Mrazek and Flower, or let's say even Soupy and Flower, that would be a really good tandem. They'd be really competing. So we'll see. But I mean, if I'm Edmonton, I'm all in on Flower too.
Yeah.
Right. If maybe give him a Vander Kane.
I think he's the only goalie that's really like out there right now that could be available. So, I mean, if I'm the Leafs, I'm emptying the tank on Marc-Andre Fleury. I think he might be a guy that can come in and help to loosen the team up in the playoffs a bit too. He's got that outgoing personality, right? Like he doesn't really seem to feel the pressure. Maybe that's something the guys need. I don't know. But if he's available, if it's Soupy or Mrazek, I'm willing to make that swap. And I'd add a pretty big piece to it. Like I might even add a first-round pick. I wouldn't be scared to go out and get Flower right now because the Leafs got to push all the chips in the middle this year and just see where the dice land because you don't even know if you're getting Soupy back next year. Let's be real.
No, for sure. He hasn't signed. So, and again, like what's he going to want, right? That's the biggest thing is contract.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, if he takes him to the third round and they lose second or third round, he's going to want some money. So they're going to be able to pay him. I don't know.
No.
Definitely interesting, but just moving on there. Congratulations to Team Canada Women's hockey team for winning the gold medal over the U.S. So that's awesome. We always like to beat those south of the border from us, the Americans there. And this is a weird one. Finland. I wasn't expecting them to win, but they won the men's Olympic hockey. So I guess a bit of an underdog story. So good on them. They beat ROC Russia in the final. So I lost some money. I took Russia, U.S. and Canada. I wanted one of those three to win. And neither of the three won, so I lost a bit of money on the Olympics. But I'll be honest, I didn't watch a lot of it. It's hard to get into it for me with players I don't know much about or follow. Definitely for me, it's a struggle a little bit. At least the women's, who it is. It's two teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch more women's than men's. Again, because I don't know many, and I like best on best. I know there's people that don't like it. For me, I love it. I mean, World Juniors, it's best on best, You know the players. If you don't know them, you get to know them because you're going to know them after that anyways, right? Because a lot of them are trying to go to the NHL. So I don't know. I definitely want the NHLers back in the next Olympics. But before that, hopefully they do a World Cup or something like that. That's what I'd like to see.
I want a World Cup this year. Like I want it in the offseason. Like I don't want to wait. And I think the Young Guns team is a team you got to lock in again. Like, man, I think the Young Guns team did so much for hockey last time to be able to see guys like Nathan McKinnon, Austin Matthews, North America. Connor McDavid's on the team, Morgan Riley. I mean, Seth Jones. Those are like the best players the league has to offer now. And they might not have made the best on best. So to get them out there and to experience that, I think that's something the NHL's got to do again. Just they got to do it right. And I think the Young Guns or North American team, whatever it is, has got to be a part of that 100%.
Yeah, I loved it. I went to one of the games. They beat Sweden in overtime. And I'll tell you, it was one of the best hockey memories I had. Probably not best, but definitely up there. It was awesome. McKinnon scored on like a 3-minute shift in overtime. He dangled, I don't know if might have been Lundqvist. Must have been Lundqvist.
Lundqvist was in, yeah.
Yeah, so it was just phenomenal. I still actually have the video on my phone. We were way up at the third level, but it was a ton of fun. I went with my cousin and his buddy, and we're all high-fiving and stuff, and it was just fun. It was, like you say, it was a fun tournament. Even if they, they're not expected to win, which is fine. I mean, you still have Canada, US, you still have all those other good teams, but it's the guys that might not make it. You get to see them, and you get to see what they can do. Mm-hmm. And the best part about that team is I think they play so loose because, they have nothing to lose. They're not supposed to win. And they're fast and they're just all hardworking, right? They're trying to prove a point that, hey, we should have been on the Canada team or the US. Or,
exactly.
So it's, I really, really enjoyed it. I actually bought a McKinnon jersey. So I have a North American jersey. I'll have to wear it on the podcast sometime. But I love it. I would absolutely love for them to bring that back. I know there's some people that aren't a fan of it. They're more, they like the other type of, the boring brand, I guess. But I think it allows more teams. I mean, there was a European team as well, which got some of the smaller countries. Kopitar, I believe. Where's he from? He's from a small country that
Slovakia, I think.
No, it's not Slovakia. It's a smaller country that wouldn't be there. He wouldn't be there, right? Kopitar is one of the best players in the last 15 years. He's a phenomenal player. He wouldn't have been able to play. Mm-hmm. Get some guys like that in as well, right? So I loved it. I would be happy if they went the exact same route as last time. I really would. I think that was in 2015 or 16. Not sure on the date, but I'd love it. So hopefully they can do that. And then just to go on with that, they did announce, we didn't talk about this, but they did announce that the World Juniors will be going on again, I believe in August, in Alberta again, and they're going to start from scratch. So I love that. I love that they're actually getting it done. I don't care. It's in August. Yeah, it sucks they canceled it, but I'm so glad that they're actually going to do it. And how fun is that? We're going to have a World Juniors in August and then one in December, January again. So I'm pumped because that's phenomenal hockey as well. And I know a lot of Canadians, especially Canadians, say that's their favorite hockey. I mean, for me, it's probably my well, if they ever play in the Olympics, that's my favorite hockey, but we don't ever see that. NHL playoffs and the World Juniors probably for me.
Yeah, for sure. And I would love it if they just threw like a best on best pro one, maybe a couple weeks after that, right? Like just maybe the gold medal game takes part the day that the big tournament, the best on best tournament opens, the World Championships, whatever you call it. So I don't know. I think it's good. We could have an exciting summer here for hockey, Brokey. I'm looking forward to it. But before we sign off, I just wanted to pump one thing, Brokey. So the Boo Club Sports and Live for Today travel bus trip to see the Leafs take on the Ottawa Senators April 16th. Tickets will be going on sale next week, so we'll have a limited amount of tickets available. If you want to come out and see the best team in the NHL, the Toronto Maple Leafs, maybe with their new goalie, Marc-Andre Fleury, take on those pesky little Ottawa Senators. Get in touch with Brokey Ride. We'll get you some tickets, and it's going to be a great night, Brokey. I think it'll be tons of fun, buddy. I'm looking forward to it.
Just so you know, Fleming, this will be my third bus trip. I'm 1-1, so Ottawa's doing pretty good considering you've been in the rebuild.
I think we're going to make a big bet that night, buddy. Big bet.
I remember. I remember I think it was the first time I ran it. Toronto was a big favorite. This is 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And Toronto lost like 5-2. And I remember the majority of the bus was so quiet, pissed off on the way home. And of course, I'm in just the greatest mood ever. Hey, everybody, how's it going?
Did any of those people book with Live for Today after that? Probably not, eh?
We got some good comments that, I think they thought it was a lot of fun. I didn't rub it too hard in their face, but it was definitely some pissed off fans. But that's the fun of it, right? So you never know. And I just hope by then we got more full lineups because it should be a good game if Ottawa gets some of their guys back. I mean, Toronto's been pretty steady with their lineups, right? And again, if Toronto has their goalie by then, right? That'll be after the trade deadline, will it not?
100%. That's like almost the end of the year, buddy.
Yeah. So if Toronto makes some trades, they'll be in the lineup. And again, Ottawa will hopefully have some guys back. I'm hoping Batherson's back. Norris should be back. Other guys as well. So it should be a good hockey game. And again, it's on a Saturday night too, which makes it prime time. It's a Saturday. You can go with your family. You can go with your buddies, your wife, your girlfriend. Either way, it's going to be a ton of fun, and we can't wait to do it. And then again, guys, April 8th to 10th, we have our massive Kings of 4-on-4 championship tournament. The winning team wins a trip to Caesars Palace in Las Vegas for the entire team, up to 12 guys. So that's 11 skaters and a goalie. If you don't want to go to Las Vegas, my wife, my girlfriend, maybe I don't want to go to Las Vegas. They won't let me, whatever. No worries. You can take a travel credit. So you're still going to win a great, great prize. You could put it towards going to a 5-star in Mexico or whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter to us. But it'd still be an amazing prize. You could do a golf trip. You could do something in Ontario, whatever you want to do. And again, Blue Jays tickets will be drawn as well for one random team. You can finish last place and your team still gets to go on a trip to a Blue Jays game. How unbelievable is that, right? So be a ton of fun. And then March 18th to 20th, 3-on-3 All-Star Championship. We only have a couple spaces left, guys. So get in. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's it for today, bro. We just want to thank Nick Foley for coming on and talking about his hockey career, a great hockey career, and also thank our sponsor for today, Monument Geomatics. For more information on them, visit monumentg.com. But Brokey, I got one more question for you, bud. Are you in?
I'm in the Boo Club, but I got one more thing before you go.
What?
It's the March, guys. For anybody listening who's already in it or who's going to be in it, or there's still a couple spots. We are going to have an awesome target shooting as well. For some great prizes. I don't know if we've talked about this. I know we have, but it's going to be awesome. Like we're talking, like you might win $100 cash. You might win some stick, some other Boot Club swag. Everybody enters for free. Every single player gets one try for free. And then if you want, you could try again for $5, the best score. And it's going to be a ton of fun. Plus, we might even get you into the draw for the Leaf Sens ticket. So, I mean, that's a lot of stuff. I mean, even if you're not playing the tournament and you want to come down and do the shot, by all means, come on down to World Elite. That'll be on the Saturday. We're going to run that, right, Flem? So that'll be the 19th, right? March 19th.
Yeah, March 19th. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a ton of fun. I just want to add that in, guys. We try to make our tournaments as fun as possible. And don't forget, guys, our championship title, which I don't have here right now, but it's on the line in both tournaments. So you want to be a champion, you want to get your team picture with a championship belt, come to our tournaments. That's your best chance.
Absolutely. So let's wrap this up here, Brokey. Pay it forward sports. Everyone can play in Boo Club Sports. Here we go, Brokey.